Hello and welcome to another episode of History Hack. Because you absolutely 100% cannot get enough of the Sharpe reunions, we've done another one, basically because Jason and Marcus get so excited by them that it's impossible to say no as well, because they're like little children jumping up and down every time we do one of these. So Jason's back. Hey, Jason.
Hello.
You're very excited about this one. I've now seen your pad as well, where you do the planning for these, your stalker planning for the other actors. There's a lot of block capitals and marker pen going on there. And look at the spelling error on Marc Warren. He had to go back and correct himself. But he did, in the interest. Marc Warren's already laughing. Yeah, he did go back and correct himself.
I do, because this is the end of the evening. I have a proper file with it all typed out properly, but this is when I'm, what's next? Yeah, do it like an artist, yeah?
This is when he's on Twitter and Instagram stalking people and trying to find them. So we do have Marc Warren with us. Hi, Marc.
Hello.
How's Corona been for you? We've not had you on yet.
Well, I've just been in a barn for about 8 months on my own in Northamptonshire, but it's been nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you getting to the point now where you just can't be asked with people anymore? You're like, I could quite happily just stay doing this now.
Well, it doesn't really seem any different to how I normally live my life, so not much changed at all, really. So.
Brilliant. This is like when we ask historians this and they say, no, I spend my life sitting on my own in a room with no one to talk to, reading about dead people. So nothing has changed. So yeah, Marc, obviously.
Well, I do that, but I don't necessarily read about dead people.
Yeah, no, that's one for the historians, isn't it? The sad sack historians with no life, of which Marcus and I are one of that gang. So you were Captain Reimer.
Yeah. Right. Do you know what? I actually, I haven't seen it since it came out. I remember very little about it. I have a few things in my mind, but most of this will be revealing for me. Yeah, but I think I was like the major or something, or was I a major or a captain? Or captain. I remember being on a horse.
You were the captain who came in to replace Sharpe, because Sharpe was sort of braced himself. So you had taken over to South Essex, and Sharpe wanted you dead so he can get promoted into your captaincy. You had bought it, obviously, and Sharpe had earned it. Before you go on with the introductions, Marc and I used to see each other at auditions back in whenever that was, but I didn't see him for a while. And I was on Notting Hill Gate at the bank, going from Lloyd's to HSBC, trying to pay off my credit card bill. And I see Marc Warren running for the Oxford Tube and stopping. He missed it. I was like, whoa, I'm going to go and fucking rescue Marc Warren here. So, hey, Marc, how you doing? Hey, Jason. I'm going to get you that bus. So rammed him in my car and we sped down Holland Park Avenue about 50 miles an hour. And I delivered into the stop in front of the Hilton, and Marc got his bus.
It was an amazing moment. And that is why I am here now.
Because I knew you. Can I just say, though, that when he reminded you that Sharpe wanted you dead, your face was like, what a bastard. I forgot that about him.
All the captains, there were several captains, none who were in mention. That was the thing. He wanted any captain dead so he could take over. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah. I mean, the overriding thing was just a feeling of feeling completely out of my depth. That's the thing I remember most from films.
That was very early for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was before Band of Brothers.
Yes, I'd been acting about 5 or 6 years, but it was, and very intimidating working with Sean, and so.
I just say you ruined me with Hustle, because that was basically my career plan. I watched that as a kid and I was like, that's it, that's what I'm going to do for a living. And obviously it hasn't panned out and now I'm a historian, so I blame you.
You're going to be a con.
Natasha worshipped that show too. She wouldn't miss an episode. She loved it. So I was watching over her shoulder.
Good, thank you.
Excellent. We also have returning Scott and Assumpta. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello, how the devil are we?
Very pleased and Her Majesty.
Yeah, sorry. Well, you said that. I might change that.
Hello, Nick. Hello, Hugh.
Hi,
Hello.
Part of the discussion last night was about Scott's luscious hair in the episode and how he still has it all as well.
Well, most of it. It's the only thing I beat out Sean Bean on is Sean Bean was they confided to me was very, very poor at growing sideburns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he actually had to have them applied.
He had to have his tattoo. had to get rid of his tattoo as well on his shoulder.
Yeah,
because he had Sheffield United. His football.
I was going to say, was it football?
100% blade.
So it was tattoo off, sideburns on.
Yeah. Used to sit for hours by the radio or by the telephone listening to the match in England. Sheffield.
Oh, yes.
Sheffield United, not Sheffield Wednesday, because that's where the pigs from trough or something. They.
Brilliantly, we have, well, I say everyone's favourite. He's Marcus's favourite Wellington, isn't he, Marcus?
Yes. How can you not be? Sorry, David.
No, David's not here. It's fine. No, so Hugh's back. Hi, Hugh.
Hello. Hi.
We have some really interesting questions for you today, actually, as well. And then we are waiting on Clive as well, so we'll see if he manages to pop in. But we have Nicholas Jones with us as well. Colonel Fletcher, hello.
Hi.
Oh, we also, as well, we've done a hornblower once. We're very excited that you're here because we were watching it last night and we noted that you had carved a niche for yourself in the mid-90s of the very competent and reliable senior officer who nonetheless gets covered up in some way to make way for the lead character in historical drama.
That's right. With tight costumes.
Yes. So that's really good. We have some great questions for you today. So we also have Robbie Morgan with us, who of course was Major Collett. Hi, Robbie.
Yes, was I?
Yes, you were. It was a long time ago. Welcome.
I've got the hat. Well, and hello to you as well.
Hat, yes, the hat.
Is Mark there?
Yes.
Yes, Robbie. Hello.
Oh,
Nice to see you.
Mark. Hi. Hey, you look very good. You look very good, Mark.
Thank you. So do you.
I've only just sort of got up, so I'm a bit frayed around the edges.
Robbie, watch Van der Valk. He looks incredible in that.
I know he does. I know. I think he's been terrific in everything he's done. Thank God I taught him well. But he looks fantastic. He really does. And there's who would say that other girl with the brunette girl, very good-looking girl.
Assumpta Serna?
I don't know her name.
Oh,
but,
what, in Sharpe's company?
No, she was in Van der Valk.
Oh, sorry. This is actually a Sharpe themed podcast, Robbie. Yeah?
Oh, right. Okay.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Van der Valk podcast. Today we'll be speaking about
Anyway.
Has Lyndon arrived yet? Has Lyndon?
He's arrived. He arrived, but he had to go and pick up his Doris. That's what he calls his girlfriend. I've got to go and pick up the Doris.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Right.
But what we're going to do first, so we're going to talk about Sharpe's company, which we were debating before we started recording. We think it's undoubtedly one of the best. We were talking about how the earlier ones obviously get a lot of love, but this one is absolutely spectacular. We're going to talk about Pete Postlethwaite and why he made it so spectacular. But before we start, Marcus is just going to give our listeners, so this book revolved around the siege of Badajoz, didn't it, Marcus? So just put that in context for people like me who don't know anything about Napoleonic history. So there was a wall and some cannons and some blokes.
Yeah, this is actually one of the more complicated ones coming from two angles, because you've got Wellington's sieges, which is kind of his weak point. He's got Ciudad Rodrigo. The episode starts with the storming of Ciudad Rodrigo in Spain, and then moves towards Badajoz. And these are the two towns, both like medieval fortifications, that need to be taken in order to liberate Spain from the French. And they're really difficult to do. It's going to be old medieval fortifications, cannons smashing them down, engineers and sappers digging their way in. But eventually it's going to be men storming those breach and going in. At the end of it, there's quite a lot of debate about how many, but there's quite a few atrocities committed by the British. And even in the opening episode, you see Cooper come down, shake hands with Harrison Hagman and just give out some jewels. And he only would have really got those from taking them from Spanish civilians. And whilst this is all going on, Sharpe's fighting for his rank. And this is the most complicated part of the Napoleonic period for me, is that there's loads of different ways for officers to move up. The most common was purchasing. They actually go to an agent in London that's commissioned by the government, and they're buying their way up. You can earn them by doing heroic or stupid things like saving Wellington's life and getting them there. Or to go up further, there needs to be a vacancy. So if somebody's purchased them, like Captain Reimer, Mark, has bought his commission, he needs to die, basically, for then the colonel to grant his position. So Sharpe's now watching people, kind of hoping that they've got a short life expectancy and he can step into dead men's shoes. So there's a lot going on in Sharpe's company.
Just want to ask Assumpta, because a question came in for you and it'd be a good place to ask it. Someone wanted to know, as a Spaniard, did they teach you all this at school? Was it a big deal learning about? So this is it referred to as the Spanish War of Independence?
Not really.
Okay.
It's just a British deal. I mean, I remember that I went into a library and tried to, well, not a library, it was a bookstore.
A bookshop.
A bookshop, yes, a bookshop. And, it was like 2 or 3 books, and I remember in Britain having, all the wall,
Yeah, absolutely. Filled with the
Peninsular War. Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because how is life, right? 3 years ago, they said to me to do a nun, to play a nun in.
I like the idea of I want you to go and do a nun.
Yes, I mean, nothing to do with Sharpe, but the idea is that I went. The production company is in Ciudad Rodrigo, and so Ciudad Rodrigo is now is having a big studio. That is. This guy is putting up, movies there, and we went into the We went into the where the murallas, how you call it?
Yeah, the city walls.
The city walls, and they explain us their story, which of course there is variations with the British story, but anyway, but it was very nice. It still are there, everything, and and I was wondering why we didn't shoot there, because it was exactly as it was. The walls and everything still keeps no.
And the only people who really care about it, the enactors who come by. Because the Spanish don't give a damn about it because they were never taught about it. And the curious thing about that, I think I said that the other time, my first line in Sharpe's company is, we're in Ciudad Rodrigo is taken. And those were my first words in Spanish. And now, well, I speak Spanish and all the rest of it. But the curious thing is the director Assumpta worked with, he wants to make a film about what happened during their siege with the French, which went on for almost 3 months, and they fought back the French for 3 months, and then the French managed to get in eventually after they ran out of supplies and everything else, and then the British turned up and got the French out and proceeded to rape and pillage, and that's sort of one of the tragedies of it, which is one of the reasons in the siege of Badajoz, which was they implemented the idea that if anybody was found looting, raping, thieving, or any other skullduggery, they would be hanged. Which is one of the reasons that went down, was because of exactly what happened with the British in Ciudad Rodrigo, which was particularly bloody and unpleasant.
I recommend you to go there. It's a very nice, pleasant city, very calm and wonderful, and still, there's wonderful views from the wall. I
think in answer to your question why you didn't film there, because it was cheaper to drag you all to the Ukraine and half kill you, but it worked out for the best because Jason married Natasha, so none of you can complain.
Yeah, and I'm married Assumpta.
Yes.
Exactly. Do you know what, as well, I will never grow tired of the anecdote about how you learned Spanish, which was when she drove you to a Spanish language school and dumped you there until you learned it, which was great.
Yeah. 4 weeks well spent.
Lyndon's just popping back in as well.
Hello, Lyndon.
Hello.
Wow.
Lyndon.
Now, Lyndon and Marc Warren. I seem to remember there being some sort of rivalry between you two, or is this in my imagination, or?
Really? I don't remember that. I was trying to think. I think Lyndon and I worked together. Didn't we do a casualty?
We did a casualty in a Simmons yacht.
Yeah. Was there a rivalry between us, Lyndon?
No.
If there was,
there can't have been.
Can we bury it now?
Yeah. Considering with all that floppy hair going on, with Scott, you three could have formed the ultimate 90s boy band.
Maybe I was jealous of Lyndon. I don't know.
He did have magnificent curtains at the time, didn't he?
It's nice to see him anyway.
I have to say, Mark, you were the most frighteningly cool people I'd ever met. You were
really
so cool.
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
he was always very cool, wasn't he?
Oh God,
he's still very cool.
I think that coolness was insecurity. Did I die in this episode?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
right. Okay.
In the face.
But you know what, Mark? Mark, you know what? The insecurity was exactly in line with the character, because he was insecure. Sharpe was wanting to be dead. It was, you bought the commission, so whatever you were doing, you did it perfectly. It was perfect.
That's why Tom Clegg cast me, which is quite hard to say, actually.
But did you grow your own sideburns?
No, they would have. No, I've never been good at growing sideburns. I always like wearing them because they always make you look good, but I've never been able to grow them. So into makeup,
you can see from the picture they're total rubbish, aren't they? Really.
That makes the others feel slightly better about your coolness. The fact that you had to stick your sideburns on.
Yeah, isn't it funny with people's perceptions of you and your own perception of yourself, how completely different they are?
How old were you when you made this?
Well, it's exactly half my life ago. I mean, I'm 53, and it was 27 years ago. So that's what's so interesting about it. It's like half a life. Yeah.
I do have to laugh when you said you were 53. Everybody else on this chat visibly groaned because you looked too good to be 53. Everyone was like, "What a git."
There's the portrait in the attic.
Yeah.
There's a curious thing when you hit your 50s. You go, really? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm 51, and you go, really? What happened?
Yeah, Chris here complaining about it. You're 55 this week, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 55 on Saturday.
He's not happy.
Not happy.
The best of years are coming up. Don't worry.
If we had just briefly, I just want to go around the room because Pete Postlethwaite kind of made this episode because he was so horrible. He just brought something so awesome to this episode. And a couple of you have had a chance before to talk about how much you loved working with him. If we start with Hugh, did you have any scenes with Pete, or did you hang out with him backstage? Because everyone loves hearing Pete Postlethwaite stories.
So glad to hear Mark saying that he couldn't remember anything about it. I'm afraid I'm pretty much in that club myself. But I loved Pete. More actually off stage than on, I have to say. He was a great guy with a wonderful sense of humour and a warmth about him, and he was great company. I don't honestly remember whether we had any scenes together, I'm afraid. Perhaps someone can enlighten me about that. Jason, maybe?
I didn't see any today. I was watching Company. I didn't see any. There's no.
Not any.
I don't think you do. You're kind of two different circles.
You might pass by him on a parade, but Wyndham is always the one that is interfacing with Hakeswill.
Yeah.
Which is a shame that Clive isn't here, because a lot of good questions about why he was so fooled by Hakeswill, and how we can see that Harper should never have been flogged. There's no way he'd be stealing the wife's portrait. So it's a shame that Clive isn't here, but we can still cover that stuff. But anyway, Pete.
Nicholas, what about you? What are your memories of Pete?
Oh, they're all rich. The first time I saw him, I was standing off camera. I think I was next up, and he was giving his Obadiah Hakeswill, and I'd never seen Pete before. And he was twitching and snarling, and later I read the books. He was doing exactly what it said in the books. I couldn't believe what he was doing. And he wandered over afterwards. I said, you were going for it there. And he said, yes, never knowingly underplayed. And I ended up in his room that night with the usual behavior going on, and got invited to see, they'd heard a rumour up in the mountains of snow that was there all summer long. I don't know if any of you came on that trek. I don't remember. But we started very early the next morning and went up on a vernacular railway, a Russian vernacular railway that was shaking and wheezing and really scary. And Pete reached into his inside pocket and started on his brandy flask. And then we got to the top. We walked about 2 miles into the hinterland of this great plateau. Yeah. And it was warm. And we came across, I don't know how we found it. There was some bush vaguely in the distance, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away. And we got to it, and there was a rickety old fence around it in iron, and a gate that had been forced open, and stepladder going vertically down into a hole. He went first. I think there were 3 or 4 of us. We went down these steps about 30 foot, and there was a tunnel, and it was very slick and dark, and the boulders were greasy, and there was a tunnel perhaps 5 foot tall, and one after the other we went into this den, this cave, which was about the size of a small sitting room, and there was a mound probably 15 foot tall of snow in the middle, and above this cone of snow there was a hole in the top which led straight out into the heath. So the snow in the winter had fallen down and formed this extraordinary icicle, this extraordinary cone shape, 15-foot tall cone shape to the snow. That's a vivid memory I have of Pete. And we left there. It was a very long walk. And the young lad who I've worked with since, I can't remember his name, it eludes me. He was very young. And I think we did a long walk. We did about a 7 or 8 miler back down off the mountain, back to camp. So those were my first early experiences of him. He was very generous and welcoming. Yeah.
Look at the size of that spliff he gave me.
Look at that.
It's funny, Nick. I didn't hear about that trip, but I know about another trip he did.
Yeah.
Do you remember the trolley buses that used to roll around Yalta? With the wires above, etc. Well, you could take that trolley bus from Yalta all the way up to Simferopol, which was an hour in a fast car, 2 hours, 3 hours in a tram. So one day, Pete grabbed a case of beer, sat down on the tram, went back and forth to Simferopol, chatting away with the locals and having a lovely time. And that's what he was like,
He was lovely. I heard a story of him doing an American movie after he'd really broken through. And it was quite early in the morning, it was 9. And I think, he'd had a couple of drinks already probably. And the director said, is that alcohol I smell on your breath? And Pete said, would you rather smell the fear?
That's beautiful, Nick. That's beautiful.
Lyndon, do you have any memories of Pete Postlethwaite?
He was what was said previously was he was just one of the most genuine and kindest people I've ever met, to be totally honest. I don't know anyone that's got a bad word to say about him, and he didn't have a bad word to say about anyone. He was just extremely warm and very nice.
To give you an idea, my brother tells a story. He was in a bar in Belfast, and Pete Postlethwaite came in, and my brother went up to him. He was basically like me without the self-censorship, if you can possibly imagine that. And he walked up to him and said, Pete Postlethwaite, you were in Sharpe's company with my brother, Scott. And he went, really? You went, Scott Cleverdon? And he said, yeah. He said, let me buy you a pint. And I think as actors, you have the opportunity every once in a while, you meet somebody who's an absolute arsehole. And I think we're very fortunate. Well, they're about. I think we're very fortunate. I was still very, very young to meet people like Pete and really the rest of the cast on Sharpe that I did, to meet such nice, generous, kind people, because, you learn the right way to go about things.
Robbie, what about you?
Yeah, Pete and I were at the RSC together. So I knew him before we started on Sharpe's company. And so we had a sort of a history of the Dirty Duck after shows at Stratford. I remember arriving from Simply Awful to Chernomary Sanatorium, and it was like an acid house party was going on at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd just arrived from the UK.
Was that just Jason in that tie-dye T-shirt? Though?
That was Lyndon's weekly party he held.
And Pete looked at his watch. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning and said, what time's the pickup? And if someone said, well, it's 6:30. And they'd been partying all night. Peter had been partying all night. I hadn't been to sleep and was just waiting for his pickup in an hour and a half. So he had the stamina of an ox. I mean, it was just incredible. But he was a lovely guy. And you kind of, I found myself, I was always on my toes when Pete was around, because you never know, you never knew what was going to happen. But he was, and was it his wife called Jax?
Yeah,
she was out there. Yeah. No, he was a wonderful, wonderful actor, and sorely missed.
Mark, what about you?
Well, I mean, the thing I remember most about this episode is Pete, and he had a really big impact, I would say, on my life, really. I remember him talking about In the Name of the Father, which I think he'd just shot with Daniel Day-Lewis, and we used to listen to him talking about that. I remember being in where we used to eat, and him introducing me to Alan Watts. And he kind of started because I think he was a seeker, Pete, and he sort of started me on a spiritual journey, if you want, which sort of continues to this day, on and off. I remember traveling. I think we were going off to a night shoot on that long and winding road that went up past that church with those drivers who used to drive about 100 miles an hour. And I remember just me and Pete being in the back, and Here Comes the Sun coming on, and just me and him singing it. I remember going to work.
That's lovely.
I remember going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning and seeing Pete still on the balcony from the night before. And he's just his constitution of an ox, really, just incredible. I remember being in the bar where we all used to drink, and one night he turned on me, and he gave me a flash of
disgusting.
It was no. He gave me like an insight of life that I just wasn't ready for, and he told me I was arrogant, but he also told me how that was a good thing and that I should hold on to it. It's something I always remembered, but it was just like being with somebody who just lived so much, and I was so young, and just being exposed to that. I actually met his son Billy two years ago. I was doing a job and I got to meet Billy, so I talked about him then. And the other thing I remember about Pete is I was doing a thing called Between the Lines. I remember doing a night shoot with him, and Pete suddenly realised he didn't know any of the lines, and he had about a 2-page speech. And we were in the bar, and he just learnt them off like that. And he said, "Good writing is always easy to remember." And then just went off and shot it all. I mean, he was extraordinary. He was one of life's characters. So yeah.
Jason, you agree, don't you?
I agree. I worked with him doing Richard II, Richard III in the West End with directed by Clifford Williams. And he was desperate to get out of that show because it was sort of nightmarish old production. And he said to me, "Jace, I'm going to fall off that thing there. Don't try and grab me because I want to break my leg and get out the show." I was like, "Pete, don't fucking do that, man." But he didn't. But tragically, he got diagnosed with testicle cancer, which took him out of the show. So it was like, be careful what you wish for. Yeah. But funny you should say it, Mark. So we were doing this Shakespeare, and we were doing a 3-town tour of Scotland. And we flew up to Aberdeen, and Pete drove, and we were going to drive from, I don't know, Edinburgh to Aberdeen, whatever. It was a nice drive through the Highlands. And it was a Sunday, and we were all knackered. And I was reading my paper, reading the results, how Chelsea were doing in the league and stuff. And Pete turns to me and says, "Jason, you're a fucking Philistine." Because I wasn't looking at the beautiful countryside. So yeah, there were moments when Pete could definitely, he's lovely, but bam. But yes, speaking the truth, sometimes she says. But I love Pete so much. This might sound corny, but I wrote a little poem. And I'd like to do it for you now. Pete Poss. No question, you're the boss. Of iniquity and hate, you couldn't give a toss. You mastered matters both serious and silly, comparing acting to crocheting with your willy. Your Obadiah so scary and surly, it's so unfair you were called away early. Your legend lives on, the world is a fan. God damn it, Pete Postlethwaite, we miss you, man. Thank you.
Hey. Well done.
Nice.
I think he'd like that because it's not pretentious.
Nice.
No, it's strong visual imagery too.
Yes.
Yeah. In retrospect, and being the age I am, I recognize in Pete somebody who was running headlong from shadow, somebody who was doing everything in his power to claw his way into the light. because there was and that's one of the reasons he was such a magnificent actor and a magnificent person, because he was aware of how dark he and everything could be. That's the thing that struck me.
He's very special, and we wanted to do a little tribute to him like that. We do have some more light-hearted questions, which I thought were really good. One of them was for Assumpta. Assumpta, if they made a prequel, who would play Teresa now?
Good question. I don't know.
Someone Spanish?
Well, I can advise 2 or 3 nice actresses of my school. They are, it's true. I mean, they resemble a lot in this fierceness and positivism, and I think, and they are tough as nails. Yes, the 3 of them.
This is the curious thing about Spain: is the women are tougher than the men. Sorry, men of Spain. But it's a very much a sort of thing. All the men are mummy's boys. That's something.
Yes, you think?
Absolutely.
Okay, so nowadays I think also.
Yeah, there's a lot. But that sort of strength, and we've actually worked with actresses that could be your daughter.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, if someone is.
Just let us know. We'll put the word out.
Know.
They can do it over Zoom or self-tape it.
Mark, you mentioned a spiritual moment. With Pete Postlethwaite, this is less spiritual. Gary Fowler wanted to know what was worse, listening to Elijah Wood sing Bubbles in Green Street or listening to Scott Cleverdon sing Hearts of Oak?
Well, I'm really sorry, Scott, but I don't remember you singing Hearts of Oak. but if it helps, I don't remember Elijah singing the Bubbles thing either. So...
Do you know what? Funny you should say that, because Brendan Rees says, Scott, do you still remember it? And I think, obviously, you're going to have to sing it, aren't you? Obviously, John Tam has taught you well.
Yeah, look, I'm not a singer. And John gave me a cassette, which I could probably still find somewhere, although I got nothing to play it in. And that was, if I seemed a little distracted when I turned up, it's because I had this song going through my head for days and days and days. And when we shot it, it was one take. And that's it. That was it. There wasn't anything else. So I was absolutely terrified.
It was very
This comes up every time for you, Scott. I mean, we got the wonderful John Tams doing the soundtrack, and it's always your 30 seconds of singing.
And everybody complains about it being a sailor song, a sea song. A shanty.
No, I think people like it.
I remember rehearsing the song. I remember you rehearsing the song in the.
I would be wandering off into the wilderness. Come cheer up, my lads, 'tis to glory we steer, to add something more to this wonderful year. To honor we call you as free men, not slaves. For who are so free as the sons of the waves? Hearts of oak are our ships, hearts of oak are our men. We always are ready, steady.
Steady, boys, steady.
We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. Well, there you go.
Hey. Taken Mark half his life to block the memory of that out, and you've just
it's gonna. It was much worse hearing Scott doing it. I must say. On a Sunday afternoon from Madrid.
So Nick, Drew wanted to know straight up which was more fun, Hornblower or Sharpe. Well, you died gruesomely, Hornblower, quickly, didn't you?
Listen, I had such a good time on both. One was watery, one was earth. And I just had a terrific time on both of them. That mad sanatorium that we all stayed in, and the wild, frontier town that was Yalta. And Yeltsin had just, not Yeltsin, Gorbachev had just been taken out of his Dachau up the road. And there was a feeling of frontier townships about it. You saw the bulge of guns in people's pockets. The sailors from up the road in Sebastopol would sell you anything. They'd sell you the shirts off their back, quite literally. Said, I like that. They'd sell it to you. It was an extraordinary, vibrant time to be there. And traveling VIP on Russian Airlines, that was a terrifying thing to do. It basically meant you carried your own luggage on first. That's what of VIP meant. It was an extraordinary time.
Do you remember when we took off that all the seats went backwards because they weren't screwed in?
They weren't bolted down. I know.
They weren't bolted down, so they all went backwards like a pack of cards.
That's right.
And then when we levelled up, they all came back up.
That's right. It was very funny. We carried on our own luggage
the
into
lunch.
the hold, and there were footsteps up from the hold into the VIP position.
Yes.
And as I turned around as I was lugging my own luggage into the hold, I looked back across right. It was like a St. Trinian's bus. This was the normal folk, with all the luggage on the arms sticking out of the bus, completely overfilled, and luggage and legs. It was the most extraordinary and scary experience. And people.
Do you remember?
The designer I remember was trying to buy a tank, and he was convinced he could get a tank and have it shipped back to London. And I bought one of those, one of the equivalent of the VC in Russia. And foolishly, I didn't hide it in my luggage, and I got stopped at the airport. And it's like stripping of them of their pride and identity in Russia.
Yeah.
And it showed up on my hand luggage, and they put me in a room, and my flight was in 3/4 of an hour. We got down to 30 minutes to 15 minutes. I said, I have no money. I have no money to pay you. And eventually, with about 10 minutes to go, I said, I have a card. I said, that'll do. So I think I paid about $100 or something, which should have been 3 months' wages for them. And they let me go. And they took this medal, but they were really, it was scary. Yeah, amazing time. And Yeltsin was bombing the White House at that time. Yeah. There was a movement order, I don't know if you remember that, saying everybody is advised, please don't go into town now. It's really dangerous. This is the White House has been bombed and Yeltsin is standing on a tank. So, of course, I got straight on the bus into town to have a look at this. It was an extraordinary time to be there.
Remember the difference between the first and the second year? The first year, you could just, walk in the streets so nicely and people were so welcoming. And the second year, with all these Ferraris, Testarossas in the streets, was such a difference in such a short year. I mean, short time. I remember that. I remember like, wow, from 93 to 94, it really changed everything. Yeah. People changed.
I went out, I think, 3 times all in all. Between the first time I visited and the second, the value of I forgot what they were called now, but what were they called?
The coupon. They were actually called the coupon.
The coupon had gone up, the exchange rate had gone up by about 200 in 4 weeks. So the devaluing of this, it was a scary time for them. I think there were about 3,000 coupons to $1 or something, and it had gone up to that from about 500 in 3 weeks. I don't remember the figures. It was huge and impossible. It was sort of like money in a wheelbarrow for a loaf of bread time.
In my book, on the first year, it was something cost $1. Second year, the same thing cost $10. Exactly. The third year, it cost $100.
There you go.
No idea about inflation. Just knew that. Well, we're in the Western world now. We go for inflation. So
yeah.
That's why we moved to Turkey, basically, after year 3.
Are you writing a book, Jason?
Yes. It's called From Crimea with Love.
Yeah.
There is.
And watching the Russians eat the free food was a lesson in what was happening.
Yes, they went mad for the fruit.
They went absolutely crazy.
They went mad for the fruit.
Yeah.
Remember the dash for the oranges and apples?
Yes.
There were moments where, unfortunately, the workers had to be told off because they were piling their plates up too high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Felt really bad the people had to eat. Other people had to eat, and they were like,
I was in Kenya once. The Maasai warriors didn't know, they piled up their plates, and the one that I still think about was one of these beautiful tall warriors, about 6'4", put custard on his potatoes as he moved along.
Oh.
Anything just to fill it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the soldiers doing their national service who were also, doing the action and stuff?
Yeah.
And they used to. I mean, they used to have corned beef and a loaf a day or something. Their rations were pretty bad, and they were at night absolutely freezing, and in the day absolutely boiling. But they all huddled together at night, hugging each other because they were so cold.
Robbie, they got $1 a day, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but they didn't even get that because the guy who was in charge used to put it in his back pocket. I think.
But this was mentioned on one of the other podcasts. Sorry to repeat it, but the Colonel, you know, Badajoz, all the bombs and everything going off.
Yeah.
So after that all happened, the Colonel came up to one of the producers and said, "Listen, I want to thank you. You've given my soldiers a basic training they would never, ever have."
Yeah.
So all that firing and stuff, that was better training than they had on normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Great.
Is that Clivey, baby?
He's coming, yeah.
Hi. Hang
Hello.
on.
Hi,
Clive. So sorry. So sorry. Had a last minute crisis.
Hello.
Hello. My goodness.
Hi.
Goodness, we all look younger than ever.
Hello, baby.
Oh, how nice to see you all. Goodness gracious me.
Hi, Clive.
Givey. Thanks for coming on, Clive. I really appreciate
I'm
it.
so sorry I was late.
Oh, no,
sorry.
it's fine.
Fine. That's fine. We were just talking about company and Pete Postlethwaite and everything. I mean, let's get some questions for Clive, I guess.
Oh Christ! Oh dear.
of which we have a few.
All right. Okay.
Don't worry.
Oh,
In fact,
Mark. Oh, goodness, how nice to see you.
Hello, Clive.
Hello. Oh, yes. Go on. Question time.
There's one thing I was trying to get onto before, the writing of Charles Wood.
Yes.
Particularly, he gave you lots of lines where you repeated yourself. Givey.
Yes.
And
yes.
all at sea. You know, do you remember that? Do you ever feel?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I remember that. Yes.
It sort of irritates me a little bit.
Does it? Oh, I loved it. You see, now
that I'm older and I'm not a stupid, immature twit, I know how beautiful it was. It was completely different from the way every other Sharpe episode was written. And Charles Wood didn't really have an idea of how the chosen men could talk or interact with Sharpe.
Right. I mean, did Charles Wood write lots of scripts for Sharpe, or was this a one-off?
He wrote two, Marcus, right? He wrote Waterloo, Company.
Right.
And they feel quite different to the rest of the episodes, except for Gold, don't they?
Yeah. It's the writing. He wants it to sound like a poem almost. Everything has to sound beautiful, which is great. It's beautiful, but it's Owen Harris was the first screenwriter. He established this sort of freewheeling, almost quasi-modern way of speaking. You know, which had been established already for 2 episodes. And then, anyway, we were saying, Clive, that Company is regarded as one of the best episodes anyway by fans. So what do I know?
Oh, that's good. Well, it was a cracking good show to do, I must say.
Do you remember the portrait of your ugly wife? Do you remember you had to pick it up and look at it?
We have to mention that. There's a moment where you go, "Oh, I gaze upon her face," and we were watching it last night, and we had to laugh because the picture they used, she was a pig, wasn't she?
She was.
She had too many Christmas puddings.
Well, she was desperately ugly, I have to say. Yes.
Is that an in-joke in the filming? Because every time that came up, we shuddered last night and went, "Oh!" And then at the end, you looked at it with such love in your eyes. And just
I
went,
know.
"Oh, I gaze upon her face."
That was the best piece of acting I think I've ever done.
Yes.
I was going to say.
Not the thing, Sharpe. Not the thing. Not the thing.
Yes.
It was a hideous picture. I don't know.
Yes.
Genuinely a picture of a woman or just something they just made as ugly as possible.
Clive, I have to ask you, because we've been talking about Pete Postlethwaite, if you'd like to say anything about what it was like to work with him.
Well, he was adorable. I'm mad as a hatter, you know, and one had to be very careful what you said to dear Pete when he had a couple of vodkas inside him, because anything that was slightly dubious, you know, that went against the grain, he could become quite argumentative. But I do remember we went out one morning filming at about 7:30 in the morning, and Pete was still on the balcony from the night before with a drink in his hand. I thought, my God, he has not been to bed. And we went out filming all day, and as we came back at 6:30, where he was still on the balcony with a drink in his hand. And I thought, Christ, he keeps this up every single day. He was apart from being a brilliant actor, I mean, he was extraordinary man.
Yes.
I became terribly fond of him, and it was, I'm amazed actually, to be quite honest, that he lived as long as he did. Because I mean, my God, talking about abusing one's body, dear Pete did, you know, in every possible way. But he was a cracking, and he was a good company member too. I remember he was great. It was terribly important with Sharpe.
Andrew Jack was such a wonderful person to remember. I don't know. I had a lot of course, sessions with him, and so good at actually, understanding why it was set in a different way, and he never did to you the line, but actually he just offer you all the possibilities, and he was such a wonderful man.
He had the knack somehow. He never robbed you.
Right. Yeah, never.
Somehow you always felt it came from you, and it gave you a lot of confidence.
Yes, exactly. And also a lot of knowledge, about history, about why the A's and the E's were pronounced that way.
Yeah.
Yes. The difference between the American accent and the British. I remember learning so much. And when we had the school, we called him and we said, you want to come? And he says, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I cannot come, but I would be very, very glad. So he gave Scott many tips to do it himself.
Clive, did you go on that walk? You all went on a long walk out in the Ukraine, and you came across, was it a mental asylum or something in the hills?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And it was the most strangest thing. It was like a scene from Midnight Express when you looked down. It was a crazy...
Well, Mark came with us. Didn't you come with us, Mark? I remember that.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, you took a shit, and a pig came up and ate your...
Really? Why is it people can remember things like that?
It was either a dog.
Well, how is it people can forget things like that?
Exactly.
You went for a shit in the woods.
Did I?
He's never shit in his entire life, had he?
No.
How you didn't need any toilet paper because this pig or dog was there.
Oh wow! Well, he licked my arse to me. God, that's great. What a fascinating story.
Oh God!
That only happens at the National.
But I do remember that walk. I got it on film. Do you remember? I made a
your film.
Yes, and we looked down, and there was the lunatic asylum down. Yes, I just remember. Yes, it was a beautiful location too. I mean, for where we were standing. And wasn't there a monastery or something up there? Maybe we walk up to a monastery.
Yes, something like that.
Yes.
That was on the way up to a place called Baidar Valley, which is where the Great Wall was built. And it's up a long winding road. We drive down the coastal highway, then we take a right up a bending, winding road past this beautiful church with the onion domes. Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, Jackie Chan shot a movie there a couple of years after we left.
Oh, really?
All right.
Really? Oh, God.
Do you remember that wonderful afternoon when we went to see Chekhov's Dacha?
Oh, yes. Dacha? Yes, I do. I do.
And there was a thing that only the two old ladies who were looking after it said that the Ukrainians didn't take responsibility for it and the Russians didn't take responsibility for it. Therefore, they had to look after it themselves and were putting pieces of plastic on the roof and stuff to try and save it.
Well, that I don't recall that, but I do remember they just didn't speak a word of English, so I couldn't understand what any of the things were.
Yeah.
But it was we were very fortunate because it was nobody there. It was just you and I were there.
Yes,
and to be standing in the presence of Chekhov's room, his house, where he wrote, I think, the Seagull.
Yeah.
And looking out of that incredible view of the Black Sea, which he would have looked out as he was writing it, was terribly moving.
Amazing. And the garden. That beautiful garden.
Yes.
I think I saw a production of Platonov at the Almeida when they're in the bus station thing, and it was just like that, the dacha there. And I was just moved by the garden seeing.
I know.
But that was a very memorable afternoon too.
It was.
Go in there.
We went to a palace, didn't we? Once did you?
Nicholas, was it Nicholas?
Alexander? There are three palaces: Levadia Palace, where the conference took place.
Levadia, yes. I went there too.
Yes. And Vorontsov Palace.
Oh, we went there. Well. That's that one.
Sweet champagne.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sweet champagne.
Crimean champagne.
Yeah. And where was that lovely restaurant that we went to that was on a spur that went out to sea, not far from where we were?
It was just up the road from the sanatorium, and it was called the Swallow's Nest.
Swallow's Nest. That's it.
In fact, Natasha's dad was the manager of that restaurant.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. It was amazing to see people selling a shoelace or
I know.
I mean, just the poverty was incredible.
Awful.
And a little girl playing the violin, you know, it must have been 4 or 5, asking for money, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Actually, some really good questions came in for Hugh that are sensible, which is not our remit usually at all. Do you wish that you'd had more action, or were you quite happy getting paid to not do as much as everybody else, running around like mad people?
I was pretty happy not running around. I enjoyed riding the horse, the beautiful horse that Dinny Powell kept in such amazing condition in Copenhagen. Yeah. But no, I mean, I was happy to do whatever was in the script.
I have to ask as well, because I thought this one was interesting. You know, last time we talked about the 2 Wellingtons and we were joking, weren't we, that David is angry Wellington. How does it go, Marcus? David Troughton is angry Wellington.
David's the angry one. Christopher Plummer in Waterloo was kind of the ballroom dancing, kind of a bit of smug, and then Hugh's the
lovely picture,
I think.
The what?
Kind of a simmering wit we were going for, weren't we?
We were, but someone has asked, did you deliberately go out of your way to change the portrayal of Wellington from David, or it was just purely your interpretation? Because I think we said before, didn't we, that none of those portrayals is wrong, but they're all different aspects of the real Wellington. But did you purposely try not to just do an impression of David?
No, that wasn't an intention at all. I mean, I think, like, excuse me, you respond to what's on the page in front of you. You know, it's a question of how the scene is written, how your attitudes and your motives are written by the writer. So I think any difference in interpretation between me and David would have been in the writing, as opposed to either of our intentions as to how we wanted to play the part.
I did.
And just to that point, that was the difference between Owen Harris and Charles Wood, because the previous episode was Sharpe's Eagle, and then the first one in was Company. Yeah. So they're like so different. The writers, you know.
Have you seen David's portrayal, Hugh, or is it?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And someone, I think this is more wishful thinking, wants to know if you were full method and strutted around pretending to be the Duke of Wellington all the time on set.
Yes, he did.
Yes, you did.
Absolutely intolerable.
Never stopped.
We had to salute him and everything.
Listen, I'm like that all the time. I don't know about just on the set.
That's exactly the answer Mark wanted to hear.
When I took that banana, I almost had my arm off.
Nobody touches my bananas.
He would regularly walk past the chosen men's room saying, "Scum of the earth," but they're my scum.
Yeah, your favourite salute, Hugh.
My famous salute?
For the chosen men. Do you remember the walk past the photo? Lyndon's personal salute.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten.
That's okay. That's
the newsflash that Lyndon remembers something no one else does. Show us the salute.
What was that? What's this salute like?
I've never been known to
It was a single finger. Let's just say that.
No, absolute nonsense. False.
You know, so if you've listened to the other Sharpe podcast, it became apparent 5 minutes into the first one that Sean Bean stole everything that wasn't nailed down off the set, and that his basement is full of stuff. And now everybody wants to know, every time someone new comes on, did you borrow anything from the set and keep any souvenirs?
The only thing I took was the nose.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
You took his nose.
Mark, did you take anything?
No.
No. Robbie?
No, only I had a hat I had a hat that Jason made for us afterwards. No, I tried to take some dollars out, but at the place in Moscow, they said, "Oh, good dollar, bad dollar. I'll keep that one." And I lost half my money going through the airport. But no, I didn't take anything.
Clive?
Me? No, I didn't take anything at all. No.
Liar!
I couldn't get them into my. But darling Robbie came out with everything under the sun in his suitcase. I
came out with women's tights.
Yes.
And a single stove, because they said you could barter.
Yes.
So, and there was this list. So I came over from England with loads of women's tights. And I also came with a relaxing tape called Sounds of the Sea.
Sounds of the Sea. I remember it. Yes, you played it to me once.
And Clive looked at it and opened the windows and said, there are real waves. And it was sort of kind of deafening in my room from the real waves. But I was laden with women's tights, and I think they must have thought I was some sort of perv.
Well, we were rather worried, I must say.
The good thing is, Robbie, if you were a regular if you're a regular character on Sharpe, we got to have a massive cardboard box and chuck everything into it, and it went over land, so nothing got disturbed. So all my medals, all my contraband, all my stuff.
All the caviar.
Got it home. I could have had Kalashnikovs. I drove to some scrapyard near Heathrow to pick up the box, and it was like no one was there, no one was watching, and it was bizarre. It was.
The image I can't forget is Pete Postlethwaite crocheting with his willy.
Yeah.
Well, he had a point.
Yeah, this is something. It's something that Natasha remembers him saying.
My brain has been telling me for the last half an hour not to ask this question, but I have no self-control and I'm a massive child. Richard asks, Mark, what's it like knowing you're probably the only bloke to ever have slept with Miss Marple?
That's true.
That's a badge of honour.
I have actually said that myself. Yeah, I did. I think in a flashback. Yeah.
That's like pride, isn't it? That's not something you can be embarrassed by. That's something you like tell grandchildren and stuff.
Yeah.
I know you don't usually talk about Band of Brothers, but someone's asking about the career progression. So, like, did Sharpe, because you're a young actor going onto a big set like that, did that make you less nervous when you got onto much bigger sets afterwards?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, every job you do, you sort of just get a bit more confident. But I mean, I remember Band of Brothers being one of the hardest experiences I'd ever had because they really treated you like a soldier.
Yeah,
you had to march on.
The reunion, they talked about the boot camp and about how some people were like, I didn't actually sign up to join the army. This is shit.
Yeah, well, I was lucky because I didn't have to do the boot camp because my character was sort of alienated from the other. I think if I'd have done the boot camp, I would have left.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in every day for the first episode and I'm actually in it for about half a second, but I was lucky enough to sort of have the third episode, I was the one I was featured in. But no, but I mean, if you called I remember we had M1 rifles and if you called it a gun, they'd have you down on the floor doing 50 press-ups and
oh god,
yeah, it was a lot of men. I've never been good with big groups of men.
Yeah, I think Robin Lang said the first time because he was one of the replacements and they were treated like crap because they were supposed to. The first time one of the others ordered him to drop and do 50, he was like, "Fuck off! No, I'm an actor."
Yeah, well, it was Captain Dale Dye who Spielberg uses for all like Platoon and. They were real Vietnam veterans who were sort of training us. And, they were like, some of them were jungle mercenaries and all sorts. And they were extraordinary.
Wow.
Can I just say, we haven't mentioned Peter Gunn. And he was
I was going to ask about Pete. Yes.
One of the funniest people I'd ever met.
Yes.
I remember my gang was Peter, Robbie and Clive.
Yeah.
I think we had rooms next to each other.
Yeah.
I think we used to go round to Peter's for tea and cake in the afternoon.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There he is. Yes.
So funny.
Yeah. Is he still in Corrie? He's in Corrie now, isn't he?
Still in Corrie, and funnily enough, he's married to in the show Sean's second wife, Mel Hill.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
right.
Oh,
yeah. Is that like a timeshare thing or something? I've always considered Coronation Street to be part of the, the Sharpe cinematic universe, set in the 20th and 21st century. Yeah, it's got that northern thing going on there. Yeah,
more fun in the Ukraine.
I remember there was a great Russian theatre company came over to do either Three Sisters or Cherry Orchard, and everybody said everybody was going to see it. All the actors and actresses, serious actors and actresses. And then somebody asked Peter, "Are you going to go and see it?" And he said, "No, it's in Russian," which I thought was very funny because it was either the Taganka Theatre Company or some or the theatre company that's from Russia? And he said, no. It's in Russian.
You know, Robbie, the one thing, and I'm sure Scott and Assumpta must have heard this, but Scott and Assumpta were kind of keeping their relationship on the sort of down low at the beginning of October, but we all knew. And Peter Gunn came up. Peter Gunn came up for a really funny name for Scott, and it was Scott of the Arse Antics.
Well, Scott of the Antarctica. Scott of the Antarctica. I never knew that. That's why I wasn't doing a lot of partying for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? With young Serna here.
And you never called me. And you never called me at your parties, by the way. I'm a little bit
no way. So who was in charge? Lyndon, did you not invite Assumpta to your parties?
Not Pete, not anyone.
I
was always inviting you to have lunch and things.
Well,
and
that's the thing. You were cooking for them all on your stove.
I was cooking a lot for you boys.
I didn't invite you.
I think, Assumpta, one time you got a little glimpse as to how dedicated we did do our partying, and you got a bit scared. I think that was the case.
Well, yeah, perhaps, yes. I wasn't really big in alcohol, but yes, in weed.
Yeah, no, true. No, we were very naughty.
I've said after the last time, it's now my life's ambition to go out on the piss with Michael Cochrane.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, my God. I wonder if you'd survive.
I think everybody's got to try it at least once.
Oh, what a way to go. Clive, there was a certain amount of hair envy going on last night. This isn't for the podcast, but I just have to ask, because I'm here with my friend Charlie, who is the vintage queen, and she'd love to know how they got your hair in such beautiful curls on
and
Sharpe.
how they stayed. It was amazing. You know,
yes. Well, I used to love you every morning because I used to come and sit there and, what was her lovely name? The head makeup woman there. I'm so bad.
Yeah, too. It was Penny Smith.
Penny.
And Charmaine Grun.
No, it was Penny Smith.
Charmaine.
Penny Smith.
Yeah.
And, yes, and she used to transform me with all these curls. Oh, I looked lovely. I was so pleased with myself. And and they did. I mean, I think she put a lot of lacquer wood into my hair, I think. But no, I'm not there, am I? No, I'm not.
That's Lyndon and his boy band hair.
Oh, yes.
Fine, Penny.
Well, and I used to love Jason's hair, all curly at the back there, flowing down. Yes.
That took forever to do, I tell you.
Yeah. He used to get up at 2:00 in the morning, curling that.
But no, but I used to, I don't know how it stayed. It stayed. And Jason, can I ask you a question? I mean, you've been plugging this book now rather a lot.
Clive, if you don't know Clive, basically there are some listeners who do all of the Sharpe podcasts, and they play Jason book bingo every time he mentions his book.
Really? Oh, it's fun. But I just want to know, are we all in this book?
Yes.
Yes, you are. The story is obviously about my character, Harris, was not in Bernard's books.
Right.
My character was a real character, and when I got the job, he he couldn't read or write, but he recalled all of his stories, and they were written down and in an account. And it was unique because it was a foot soldier, a working class man's story, not an officer's story. Anyway, fast forward to 1992. I'm playing Harris. I heard about this book. I bought the book. I read it. I thought, wow, maybe I should be the Harris of Sharpe. So I thought, I'm going to write a diary. I'm going to take photos. I'm going to do a video diary. So that's how it all came about.
Oh, I see.
So it's my journey through Sharpe, which started off really fun and brilliant and ended up really bad, but has come full circle because now everything's flattened.
Oh, right.
But luckily, I came out with a beautiful wife called Natasha.
Very nice. Very
and
nice.
a son. Yeah. So yes, everyone's mentioned, but obviously, I deal with the juicy stuff, and not everyone's involved in all the juicy stuff.
Oh.
But yes, I can actually send you a copy on Word if you want to read it.
Well, I'd be fascinated. Yes.
Great, I will send.
Well,
you.
I thought I was involved in quite a lot of juicy stuff out there, but maybe it wasn't juicy enough for you, Jason.
Do you know what?
I don't know about it.
God,
but,
there's
yes,
Clive's
I was
lawyer
writing my
coming
diary.
in.
My diary. But Clive, there is something I do mention you because on the next year you were written into Sharpe's sword.
Oh.
And
yes.
he gets blown up.
That's right.
Early on. And Stephen Moore came in to play him.
Yes.
He was the late Stephen Moore.
Yes.
And apparently you turned it down because you didn't want to get blown up. Is that true?
No, I don't think so at all.
Total bullshit.
I think it's a bit of bullshit there, yes. Maybe I asked for too much money. I don't know. I can't remember. But there was, yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Which is a shame because it's nice to have the same character playing, you know.
I know. I don't know.
Clive, can I see one of your caricatures?
Oh, well, Mia's getting books and things out.
There's one right behind him, behind Clive's head.
Oh, the blue one.
The blue one. I think that's Gilgud, is it?
I've got some here, yes, but they're all in my books and various things. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to buy my books.
Okay, good. Where I can find them?
You can find them if you just put in my name on Google search.
Okay.
They're always coming up for half price, or not even. Sometimes I can't even give them away now. Yeah.
But Scott, I love this question because it's so random. Paul Adams says, did you ever get bored standing around the set in uniform? I love reenactment and I love my uniform and cleaning my musket.
It was probably one of the least boring sets to be on because everybody was... I understand reenactors entirely. And basically what actors are reenactors who get lines to say and somebody films them doing it. And we get treated relatively nicely depending on where we are. And you have those opportunities to, sit outside a bell tent on a plateau in the Crimea, and the way it sounds and the way it smells and everything else around it is you have that little moment where you have the opportunity to truly travel in time, which is, I think, one of the reasons that reenactors really, I completely understand it. And apart from that, as you always said, hanging out with British actors on a set is always extremely good fun because the patter is quite excellent. There's always extremely good patter, and Clive and Robbie and Hugh. It's because there's one thing that British actors love to do, is we love to play the role of being a British actor.
Yes.
because it's such a fun place to inhabit, isn't it, darling?
Darling, I love that, Clive, when you were saying, love.
But we do it, and it's that sort of, and we all have an innate understanding of the ridiculousness of what it is that we're doing, and it's very good fun, and it's almost impossible to get bored. Yeah, look, this long periods of tedium. I remember spending a good 3-4 hours throwing coat hangers at a clothes rail, and it became quite scientific. It was like the inner game of tennis eventually, and we made our own fun.
Very
no
serious.
phones. It was absolutely, but it was like that. I mean, as an actor, when you're on location on a set, you can either complain and worry about that you got better.
That was our entertainment, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
There wasn't anything else.
No, that was it. And also the thing is that you couldn't, you actually had to make your own fun about it. It's like, when they talk about trench warfare, long periods of boredom with short shocks of complete terror. And the other thing was that when you were out there and they'd go, oh, there's a small explosion there, don't walk on that, there's a big one, just be careful of that one underneath that twig, and then they'd call action on the cameras, and you waved your sword out and you're walking towards the walls of Badajoz, and things would start blowing up, and there was no acting necessary whatsoever. You were genuinely terrified with a face full of burning peat.
Yeah, this is the point.
There was no small one either, Scott.
No.
And Nolan Hemming talks about Band of Brothers and says that he absolutely was overjoyed skipping through all these explosions and stuff with no comprehension of his own personal safety, being young and stupid, and that there was no acting.
No, there's nothing at all. But the other thing is, they go, when it's a medium-sized explosion, you're supposed to. My answer was, yeah, but I got nothing to compare it to. It's not like I've been through, that's a small one, that's me. And then the things got overcharged, and the way the explosions work, I think we probably talked about this here before, there's normally a cup which is used to direct the blast. Well, that didn't happen. There was a hole that was dug, the charge was placed, and the peat was put on top to give it the fire and the burn. And it just went everywhere. So you would get a face full of, burning material, and God help you if there was a rock in it.
But we were
great fun.
That's the hangers game, Scott.
The only picture I've ever seen of Sean Bean where he looks terrible.
Oh, that's it.
I tell you what, it was one of the greatest nights ever on Sharpe, because we were filming down at a place called Suffolk Alley, and the rain started coming in. And he said, you better go to the tent and retire for a bit, the rain will stop. Well, the rain went on for about 6 or 7 hours. So we developed this game, not sure who did it, Lyndon or John Tams, where you had to throw a hanger and get it to hang on the clothes rail. And we were doing it and doing it. And none of us
should be an Olympic sport.
Exactly. And of course, me being a Mr. Big Head and a Frisbee champion, I said, yeah, well, let me try this. And I started being quite successful. And at one point I said, you know what? I think I could do this blindfolded. So I went to the Oki and I stepped back. And on my second go, I heard clang, and I got and there it is, the hanger on the rail. And before I could take my blindfold off, I got inundated by all the guys in the room. I'd never seen Sean so animated and psyched. He was right on top of me, Jason, like I'd scored the winner for Sheffield United. It was such an incredible moment. I remember it so well, and I think I won about $600 off Dara for that one throw. Which
there you go. There you go, Jason Salkey.
I love that you managed to get Dara to gamble on it.
But we had a book and everything. Yeah.
Managed to get Dara to gamble.
No, being ironic, Jason.
I remember being with Sean on stage, and he used to have to stab me to death every night. And one night he jumped on my back, and he had the dagger, which he dug into me, but it was a retractable thing. But as he squeezed with his legs, he broke my ribs, which was just unbelievably painful. So when I was dead, he didn't know that I'd broken my ribs. And then he had to pick my hand up and drag me across the stage to various places. And I was going, for fuck's sake, don't do
I don't
that.
think you asked him to come back on the podcast because he owes you.
What was that, Robbie?
It was Romeo and Juliet at Stratford, and I was
with Pete Postlethwaite.
Yeah, he wasn't in it, but Paris. No. It was Sean Bean as Romeo.
Assumpta, so now everybody knows when you come on these things, they love you and your feistiness and the fact that you take no shit from anyone. So we get inundated with questions about it. And Melissa Speed sent us one, and she ranted first. She said, what do you think of the storyline in which Sharpe was unfaithful with Liz Hurley's character? She hated it. She thought he loved you far too much for that. She was very angry. She doesn't think it happened in the books, but Marcus can confirm. And so she thought it was totally odd. And I think she wants to know if it pissed you off.
Yes, of course. You know, he was mine. Yeah. Come on, even that. No, I mean, you know, I didn't watch actually the episodes of Liz. I didn't. I was, I think, in America back then, and it was difficult to get a hold.
Well,
of
all I can say is all that anybody needs to know is you need to meet Liz Hurley to understand that Sharpe. You know. I mean. You know, I've never met anybody who flirted with furniture. I mean,
what?
I'm unsure at the moment whether she does actually. He goes in rescues, and whether.
Yeah.
Marcus,
I don't think he does in the book. I was checking it out.
I'm not sure he does. The film's kind of seared into our minds, let's say.
Yeah. Although it is quite funny that Sean got a bit irate, didn't he, about some of the amount of...
Exactly. I remember her the day that she came, the first day she came, and she insisted to be in my car. And so I said, okay, great. And so she was all the time, I think it was like for an hour, you know, asking me questions about Sean, about the boys, about everything. But this, you know, was like girl talk. But I felt like robbed or something. You know, I felt like because you know she was only keen to know, you know, the dirty of everyone. What did she like, and what did the other like?
I literally sit in my room all night cooking people moves food on my little stove and don't know any gossip. Sorry. They don't invite me to their
really no. I was, you know, it was another bird, isn't she? It's another kind of.
It's another species.
It's another species for me.
It's another species.
It was really interesting, you know, to watch her. You know, it's just wow, what a species!
Astonishingly beautiful and so out of most people's league. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's just so.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
apart from you, Rob.
Anyway, Assumpta as well. This question came in from Matt. Oh, it's quite interesting. Do you know what happened to your baby?
No.
Where's Antonia now? Have you
No.
got touch? No. I wouldn't
Antonia.
either. It would just be a prop, wouldn't it? There you go. Have it back.
Yes, I didn't know how to hold her. I remember that. I was like, "What is that?" Because I never had a child, or I never will. So for me, it was a strange thing.
I got the impression you liked the baby. I think you covered it well.
Yes. Okay.
But I know I'm the same as you, and if it had been me, as soon as the camera went off, I would have been like, "Somebody take it off."
Yes.
I love children, but I love children, but I couldn't eat a whole one. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I understand that.
But Assumpta, there's a scene where the baby's crying, that the Baderhof is being attacked, and the person who's looking after the baby, your sister, whatever, is crying her eyes out, and you stride in and pick up the baby and said, "What are you doing? You're crying," and you did it perfectly well there, I must say. So don't do yourself down.
Okay. Well, yeah.
That's when didn't you stab someone then?
Yes.
The Frenchman.
It's actually just before that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we lost no sleep over
that's allowed, isn't it? I mean, it was
that's what we said when he hit the floor. Well, it's one less Frenchman. That's the
Thank
point.
you, Alex.
You stabbed me, he said. She was like,
no, he just kind of slid to the floor, but he actually acted that brilliantly, because we were laughing. Because the look on his face was like, I thought I was going to get laid.
I'm scored. It was great.
The last question, guys, is just, and I just say it's history, but Robin asked, and I think it'd be quite cool to go around the room. Who made you laugh the absolute most on set? So let's start with Robbie.
Oh, easily Peter Gunn.
Yeah.
He was just so quick, and mind you, Clive was very funny. But Peter Gunn easily. He just, he looked, with those little glasses on it, he just looked like Les Dawson, as if he was collecting, the Les Dawson, the perv he plays with those tiny little glasses, go, sex, knickers. That character. Well, Peter Gunn, he was funny. Also, he taught me how to do Michael Caine. So
he sounds like he was the king of the one-liner as well.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Would you say? I only told you to blow the bloody doors off. He's a sort of, and which I've used ever since. But there were some very. I'm trying to think of the other. Just so much happened. That was funny.
He was the king of that year, Sharpe, for sure. In terms of mirth, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I've got to say. Is Peter Gunn? Yeah.
All I've got to say as well is Peter Gunn. He was undoubtedly the king of patter. He was hilarious and one-liners all the time in every situation. He never let up. It was just a joy to be with him.
Yeah.
Clive?
Yes. What was the name of that huge hill? It could only go up by lift, going up to what was it called?
Oh my God! Yes, in that scary lift.
Yes.
Funicular railway.
No. Yes, he went up in the funicular.
Lift up and down.
Yes.
From the top to the bottom.
All I know is that I went up there one day with Pete Gunn, and he had a kite with him, and he brought this kite all the way from England. And he was determined at some point during his stay out there, he was going to fly this kite. And it sat dormant in his bedroom for days and days. Anyway, I said, well, let's go up on this lift. He said, right, I'm going to bring my kite. So he went up, because they'd never seen a kite before. All these Russians were staring at him. And he went up there, and he said, running around the top with this kite, which wouldn't come off the ground at all. So I pretend I didn't know who the hell he was. He's sort of some mad and eventually this kite went up in the air, and he lost control of it completely. And so we were running after this kite, which I thought was then going to fly all the way down and land somewhere in the Black Sea. But he managed to save it. But that was one of my very favourite moments of dear Pete, who was determined to fly his kite, and he did. And he did. Now he is a truly. I mean, we keep in touch every Christmas by card, but we never get. Yeah. And we keep trying to make arrangements to see each other because, yes, I was terribly, terribly fond of him. Very fond of him. Yeah. Great guy.
Wonderful.
Now tell me, who's the gentleman below?
Yes.
That's Christian Abomnez. He was on the camera crew.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And he was a friend of Sam Craddock.
Right.
Malcolm Craddock's son.
Yes.
And he got a job on the first Sharpe as a location assistant manager and worked his way up through the ranks to clap a loader or focus puller, whatever he became. But he's a bit of a Sharpe, and he lives in Paris now. Now he's a director, actually, cameraman. He's a director, yeah. Right. So he's doing well. I visited him a couple of years ago in Paris. He looks good.
He did the crew one with us, didn't he?
What's his name again?
Yeah.
Christian Abomnez.
Yeah, he did.
He's half English, half French.
Was there a chap out there called Vlad the Inhaler?
What could have been Vladimir? Lots of Vladimirs, yeah.
Who were those two? Who were those two Russians who were infatuated with me?
Probably Sandra and Patricia.
Yes, they were two.
And they've been killed.
Yeah.
What?
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were gay in Yalta back in the 90s.
God.
That's a no-no. That's why I liked you so much, Scott.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's happened since. It's happened
never
since.
said it to me.
Are you saying they died?
They were killed. They both liked to drink more than Pete.
Yeah.
And that.
Yes.
And
yes,
so if you're gay and you're pissed,
you're
pissed, you might try it on with someone, and that's not going to be good if you do to someone that's ultra violent. So that's what we think.
I remember these two. What they were doing in Sharpe?
They served us our tea and our biscuits at lunchtime.
Yeah. Chai Milocco.
Lyndon, who made you laugh the most?
To be honest, I'd probably go Lord Tams. Actually, Mr. John Tams, purely because of the dryness. The comments that he'd come out with would be ones that you'd sort of laugh at about 2 days later, because it took me a while to actually get it.
Exactly.
It was extremely clever, and I wasn't. I mean, there's Peter Gunn, obviously, but we didn't spend so much. They'd have spent more time together, because with the characters and so on. But I think, probably Tams. And obviously Jason, because
Natasha has just reminded me of a funny thing that happened once, and it was Marc Warren dancing in his underpants. You remember that, Mark?
I've probably done that a few times, so you might need to pin it down.
You and Peter Gunn used to dance to ABBA, Dancing Queen, on the Saturday night disco night.
Oh yeah. I've got all that on film. Yes, I have. Yes.
I actually think those two Russian gentlemen who were after me, I think they moved on to you for a bit, Mark, or it was somebody else. But I kind of transitioned them. I can't remember who, because there was a point when somebody else walked in the room and they went, "Oh, hello," and
not your blonde hair. Go and talk.
Yeah, getting flashbacks.
Where you find out that Mark actually spent years on therapy to forget.
Welcome to my world.
All of us.
Bizarre. Yeah, remember that.
Hypnotism to try to repress the memories.
Yeah, Mark.
There was someone. Sorry, Alex. There was someone else that was hilarious, but maybe not intentionally, and that was on the following year. And his name is Peter Hugo Daley.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he played one of the deserters, along with a guy called Jake Abraham, a Scouse actor, Jake. And they were hilarious, but not in the terms of quips and clever word arrangements like Peter Gunn or John Tams, but just out of control craziness, and they were really entertaining.
Yeah,
Peter Hugo Daley.
Yeah.
He went on and was in the India ones as well.
Did. Shadrach Haverkamp or some ridiculous thing. Yeah.
Shadrach. Yeah.
I asked Mark about who was funniest, but he looks like he's still suffering flashbacks from the ABBA.
No, Peter Gunn was the funniest, but Clive and Robbie were a very close second. Peter always used to buy very weird local stuff, didn't he? And then he would sort of entertain us with it in the afternoon.
Yes. Yes.
I'm also remembering playing chess with John Tams. Would that be right? Did you used to play a lot of chess?
Yeah, there's a big.
That's
chess.
John, isn't it? Behind you, next to Pete.
No, that's
that's Michael Mears. I'm going
Oh,
to.
it's Michael. I used to play. I beg your pardon.
Yes,
that's Michael. I used to play. Yeah, I used to play. I used to play chess with Michael then. And Christian Abomnes, I'm pretty sure I have one of the great filming experiences of my life with him in Prague in around about 1999 on Oliver Twist, if it's the same guy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you probably actually worked with Marc Genet as well. Marc Genet was our first assistant director, French guy. Do you remember him?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, he blew me up.
He probably worked on that Prague production because that's he moved to Prague and started doing shows there. So you probably worked with him as well. Here is the chess club underway during Sharpe's company.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
What happened in Prague?
It's a lot. That's a whole different.
It's a whole podcast.
What happens in Prague stays in Prague.
Do you remember when Michael Mears used to guard his marmalade? We weren't allowed any. Do you remember?
Is that a metaphor?
No.
None of you will come
It's
near.
either marmalade or Marmite, and he wouldn't let us near it.
Yeah, Michael kind of was particular about his things, I must say. Yeah, he was. But
that photo is funny because it looks like Michael doesn't want anyone to mess his chessboard up. Lyndon doesn't know what the bits are for, and Dara doesn't care.
I tell you what, though, they did care because money was passing hands in this match for sure.
Oh, so Dara's there because he's got a bet on it.
The trouble is,
Dara's had a book on everything. I told you, he had a book on absolutely everything.
The trouble is, Lyndon...
What time will we start filming tomorrow? I'll have a bet on that. What time are we going to stop filming tomorrow? I'll have a bet on that.
The trouble is,
Lyndon, in one of the episodes, they put Dara's character Harper starts betting, and I don't think that's in the books. Do you think that's because he was doing it so much behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Say again, Marcus. What was that?
In one of the episodes, they have Sergeant Major Harper making a bet book up.
Oh,
and
that's right. The Ellie Sharpe shooting scene.
Yeah, in gold.
That could have been. Yeah, that could have been.
Is that influenced by real life with Dara's real book?
In fact, I remember winning $1,600 off Dara.
No.
But yes, yeah.
God.
He bet me towards the end of the first series when we thought everything would disintegrate. Jason, we're not going to go again next year. I said, Dara, we're definitely going again this year. He bet me 16-1. I laid down $100.
God.
But the following year, I felt bad for him, and it was the year England didn't qualify for the World Cup. It was an impossible game, and I put 300 quid on England getting into the World Cup because I knew I was going to lose to let Dara have some of his money back. But I won a lot of money off Dara, I must say.
Yeah. Trouble is, Lyndon thought he was playing drafts. That's the only thing.
No. Look, Lyndon's got 3 of his pawns already. 4 pawns.
Lyndon, how old were you?
He looks about 10.
Yeah. What's this, Sharpe 1, Sharpe 2?
This is Sharpe 2, Badajoz. This is during Badajoz.
21.
This is
21.
Oh,
I see.
I remember you I shall never forget Lyndon being up in a tree in Dennis Potter...
Singing Detective.
Oh, Blue Remembered Hills.
And he had this marvellous line. He had 3 or 4 marvellous lines up in this tree, and it was one of the most moving moments of the whole thing.
Thank you.
I don't remember him having any lines, but just the look. It was an iconic image from the show. They always showed that image. Lyndon looking down at his mum making love to another man. And it's fantastic acting. It says so much. And,
he was up in a tree. He was up in a tree, and it was one of the most moving scenes I've ever seen, really. Absolutely. It was so beautiful, and Dennis Potter was such a wonderful writer.
Do you remember doing that, Lyndon?
No.
No way. You must.
Yes. No, of course. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was my first ever job ever in the history of the world when I was 13. Yeah. Patrick Malahide and Alison Steadman with
oh wow.
Alice Steadman was my mum, and Patrick Malahide was the person doing the naughty.
Yeah.
That's what made you pretty much the most famous person on set on Sharpe, wasn't it? Other than Sean Bean.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you to everyone for coming along. I'm sorry if I hassled you with emails, etc., etc. We never know. We might do one of everyone all together, every single Sharpe actor together in one last Zoom call towards the end, just before my book comes out. So
Do you have a book coming out?
I do. It's called
I feel like
Crimea.
we've changed the bingo people, Jason. So just say it 4 or 5 times now. I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book.
No, Natasha
With Crimea for Love. With Crimea?
From Crimea with Love, and it's published by Unbound, and you can get pre-ordered right now.
And it's a great read. Believe me, a great read.
Thank you.
Is it on Amazon? Can you get it on Amazon?
It will be. Yeah, it's not out yet. It's out next year.
Okay.
Right. But I can send you a word copy if you want.
All right. Yeah.
I'll cut out the bit where I talk about you, but yeah, we'll...
Whatever format it ends up taking and location, you're planning a launch party where you're going to try and get everybody back together, aren't you?
Yes, but I'll definitely wait till the pandemic's over so everyone can do it. Yeah.
It's going to end up being an interpretative dance. That's what it'll be.
Yeah.
I can read more of my poetry about various characters.
Like Dara can bet on who gets drunkest.
Dara can have a bet, definitely. Yeah. We'll make sure we get Abba Dancing Queen on for Mark as well.
Guys, thank you so much, everybody, for coming on to talk about Sharpe's company. It's been absolutely fantastic. Clive, thank you.
My great pleasure. Thank you. I've been lovely seeing you.
Clive.
Robbie as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't know I was alive till I got on here.
See you all again.
Thank you.
I hope you opened up your air.
Lovely to see everybody.
Mark, I'll see you.
Bye, Clive. Bye, Robbie.
Bye.
Bye.
Mark, thank you. Yes, Hugh, thank you. Everyone, thank you. It's been a really good... I got a very good feeling about today's podcast. I don't know why, but it felt really nice. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason, for putting us all together. Thank you, Alex. It was always very nice.
No, it doesn't matter.
Love to see you, Lyndon.
Cheers, guys.
Too.
Thanks, mate.
See you soon.
Join us on Boxing Day. When you really have had enough, down the pub, we will regale you with our Christmas special. We have played Secret Santa. Currently, all of the regulars have packages sitting at their house with what we assume will be hilarity inside, and then we'll open them live on air. And we are also going to play a game. We are going to play a game whereby everybody gets allocated, much like Secret Santa, someone else in the pub, and they've got to cast them as historical characters for a theoretical panto. So join us as we basically burn each other for a couple of hours for your amusement. We will also be broadcasting a special World War II programme all about a Christmas battle in Italy. Merrin Waters will be with us to talk all about the Battle of Ortona, so don't miss that either. Don't forget that we do exist on Patreon as History Hack and on Patreon as well, which is Podbean's own version. Alina and I have had massive fun doing this in 2020, but life's going to change quite a lot next year and we're going to actually have to go and earn a living, etc. If we want to keep up the regularity that we've been bringing you and the kind of guests that we've been bringing you and the workload, then we will need your help. So if you join us on either of those platforms, Marcus is currently working on some benefits for you, so there's going to be incentives for joining on either of those platforms. We're revamping ourselves on both of them, so don't forget to go in. You can do as little as $1 a month, and it all goes towards keeping up History Hack as regular as we've been able to bring it to you this year. We are now on YouTube. We are posting all of our new episodes on there, and we have our own channel, and we are gradually posting all of the back episodes because we have been made aware of the fact that you can only find the last 100 on some platforms. So you can go and listen to your heart's content and laugh at the cartoons and have a great time. So do go over there and subscribe.